I'm Carolee Garrison, and this is Seeking Sunshine, where we find the positive in the trials of life. There are times when life just brings you down, 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 down to the ground. And it's hard when you can't see the light, 'cause things don't look so bright. So now it's time to reframe and retrain your brain. It's time to look for the good. You know that you should. Why don't you join me? 'Cause I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. Oh, oh, oh. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. Do you like this song as much as I do? Ooh, it just gives me goosebumps and makes me want to dance. I am in love with this new version of Seeking Sunshine. This is the title song for my album that is going to come out probably around next February. If you want more information, please sign up and subscribe for emails from my website. My website is caroleegarrison.com. Are you looking for ways to support my podcast? If so, then please like it, subscribe it, and leave it a review. Did you know that if you leave a review, it helps my podcast get shown to more people? I would so appreciate it if you could leave some words in the review box and let people know. Share this with your friends and family and just tell them about the episodes that you really like and some of the takeaways that you've personally received and that have helped you out. Do you have a story to share? I would love to interview you for my podcast. I want to hear all about you and what you've been through and how you've been able to seek sunshine in your journey. Please reach out to me. You can send me a message in DMs on social media, or you can even send me an email at caroleegarrison@gmail.com. I would love to talk to you. Hey, welcome back to the Seeking Sunshine podcast. I am so thrilled that you are here seeking sunshine with me. It is such a joy to have you here. Today we have such a great interview with Ashlee Hoelck. She is a coach and owner of Phoenix Rise Coaching, where she inspires women who have endured toxic or abusive relationships so that they can heal and thrive. She talks about she had 12 years of debilitating back pain that was caused by emotional trauma from an abusive relationship. And if you didn't know that, our trauma shows itself in our body. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score that talks all about this phenomenon and how, when things happen to us, those emotions, if we don't process them at the time that they happen, we have physical effects from them. So this is such an important topic, and I am so excited that we get to talk about it today. Ashlee has a really amazing podcast called Thriving After Abuse, so definitely go check that out. And I'm just super excited that she's here to talk with me today. Welcome, Ashlee. Welcome to the Seeking Sunshine podcast, Ashlee. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So let's dive right in. I want to hear your story and get to know you better.
Yeah, so my very long story short is that I ended up in an abusive relationship when I was a teenager, and it lasted about 4 years. And I finally was able to escape from that when I was around 21. It was kind of one of those long, dragged out, blurred endings. And, I moved on with my life. I slowly kind of started healing. I met my now husband when I was 25. We had our first son, we got married, we had our second child, and we moved states, bought our first home. And, I felt that I was absolutely thriving, but I still had this chronic back pain. I had chronic back pain that started when I was 21. I threw my back out twice in 1 month when I was 21 years old. And obviously that's pretty concerning when you're 21 years old.
So young.
Yes, and 2 times in 1 month, you can't walk for 3 to 4 days because you're in excruciating pain. And I never really got answers over the 12 years that I was in pain. Doctors wanted to just prescribe me some pain pills, which I refused, except for the times I threw my back out, which that I threw my back out about 8 times the first 6 years. So yeah, so that continued on for the 12 years, and I never knew what really the issue was. I never got an explanation of why my back hurt. It was a lot of speculation, like, oh well, maybe it's because you slouched, or maybe you were on your computer in your bed for too long, when you sit on your laptop and you slowly get lower and lower. So it's just like, oh, maybe that's what it is. And um, no explanation, no care besides like, okay, we'll try physical therapy and here's some medicine for the pain. And, no one ever asked me if I had any sort of emotional trauma, which I learned when I was about 32, 31. We had just bought our house, and I still in this excruciating pain. We had visitors. I spent the time laying on the ground because my back hurt too much to stand or to even sit. And I first heard that emotional trauma could be stored as physical pain. And I thought it was crazy. I thought that makes absolutely no sense. There's no way that that's even possible. How is that scientific, right? And I realized at that moment, I was like, whoa, the pain started when I was 21, which is kind of when I was just getting out of this 4 years of abuse. And it wasn't just physical abuse, it was also a lot of emotional abuse and just completely destroying my soul. um, and I was like, well, maybe that could possibly be it. And I just kind of, put that in the back of my head just as like a possibility that it could be real. And shortly after that, within like a few weeks, I enrolled in a manifestation course, just thinking, oh, this will be really fun. I had just kind of had a spiritual awakening in 2020. I had manifested our dream home. It was absolutely perfect. And I was like, oh, this will be really fun. I'm just going to learn to do affirmations and all this like light, fun stuff. Well, it ended up being this deep healing container, doing a lot of this work that I didn't really want to do, and a lot of things that I didn't really know existed, a lot of deep meditations. And I realized that I still had a lot of anger and a lot of hate towards my abuser, rightfully so, but I was still carrying it with me. And I realized I was still thinking about the trauma a lot, which I've learned is how you stay stuck in the fight or flight mode, because thinking about the trauma is the same thing as actually being in the trauma. Your brain doesn't know the difference. It still treats it the same. And so I realized that I was still doing all of these things 12 years later when I'm happy, married with to a great man, all these things. And so I went through all of this healing process and crying, lots and lots of crying and lots of releasing and writing letters and things like that. And after about 5 weeks of this, I woke up and I had no pain.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Like
Yeah.
what a miracle. I mean,
Yep.
that's a
Yeah.
beautiful story.
Yeah. And like I didn't really believe that it was happening. Like at first I thought, oh, I'm having a good day, because I would have good days or days where the pain was only a level 5, rather than its normal 8 to 10. And then I was like, well, maybe it's a good few weeks. Like maybe finally the ice and heat I do every day and the stretching I'm doing every day, maybe it's finally working. And then a few months went by and I said, okay. And that's when I started to kind of read more. I started reading more about it. I started hearing more about it, about how emotional trauma could be causing physical pain. And I was like, I think that's what happened. And I didn't tell anyone either, because for me in the beginning, it felt almost like magic. Like if I were to, in my head, I would play the situation like, oh, guess what? My back doesn't hurt. And they'd say, oh, okay, well, what did you do? And then I'd say, well, I wrote an angry letter and I ripped it up and I flushed it down the toilet. And I did a cord cutting meditation where I took a big invisible sword and I cut these big invisible energetic bonds between me and my abuser. And then the pain went away. So it was like, it all just sounded so out of this world, like so unlike of anything that I had ever heard. But the more I started to read about it and read books done by, scientists, so they're doing science, right? And I was like, wait, it's being explained by science and by brain scans and all of these other things. There's people who are working in this area. It's just something that I had never heard before. And so that's when I started sharing with, my close friends and family. And after a while, I realized I can't keep this to myself. Like, I can't just tell my friends and family. And that's when I started sharing my story on social media more openly. Another thing I had to get over was people thinking that I had made it up. I thought, because, it was 12 years of this, and there'd be times at work where I would drop something, but I'd be carrying something heavy and I'd say, oh, I can't pick it up because if I pick it up, my back, I might throw my back out. I never knew my back was that sensitive that like little tiny things would throw my back out. And my back always had this like twingy feeling in it, like it wasn't going to hold me. I felt unsupported all the time. And so I thought, well, they're going to think that I just didn't want to pick things up, that I was just lazy or something. And so I had to get over that and started sharing it on my social media and going on podcasts and sharing my story. And yeah, just got very, very passionate about it.
That's amazing. And I have to tell you, like, how I relate to your story. Like, my husband, we've been married for 14 years now, and when we were first married, he was the only male cashier on the front end at a grocery store, and he would have these back spasms and lay on the floor in like the fetal position crying, like from stress. And we found out as the years went on that he had really severe PTSD, like debilitating PTSD from childhood trauma and like things he had seen that were just really horrific. And um it took a long time, this whole like journey, but like he was diagnosed, he had lots of back pain and no one could really explain it. And like he had some like discs that were a little bit
Bulging.
yeah, bulging, like, they did all the things.
That's
Like
what
all
I
the
had. I
doctors,
had bulging discs.
right? Like they did all the things where they're like, oh, well, we can, stick a needle in your spine and put some numbing stuff, and we can nerve ablations. We did a bunch of nerve ablations where they kill the nerve so you don't feel the pain, and that would help for like 2 weeks. It was supposed to help for like 2 months, and it would help for a couple weeks, and then he was walking on, and he was, I mean, what, he's 35 now, 36. And so he was walking on a cane, and he slowly became more and more disabled and like couldn't work. He'd collapse all the time. And it was like this awful thing that we just went through together, because we also have 3 kids that have autism. And so while I'm dealing with all that, he can't work and he can't walk and he can't care for the kids because any amount of stress puts him over and he'd collapse.
Yeah.
And then over the last couple of years, he's gone through this healing journey, really, really like right along the same lines as what you've gone through. He got off of 12 different prescription medications and switched entirely
Oh
to
my
medical
God.
cannabis. And now he jogs for fun and does Tai Chi and yoga and like all these things. Like he could not move.
Wow.
And like he's been able to heal from all of this trauma that he had been through. And like, so I like, you talk about it like most people think this is crazy, and I totally see that. But having lived through this like experience with my husband, I know how real it is.
Yeah.
And how like it's great that we can talk about this on the podcast and talk about like these experiences that seem really out there, but it's so important that we talk about them more so that more people maybe can be open to healing, because it can just shut down your entire life when you have that kind of trauma, if you're like holding on to it. And I mean, we went through, my husband already had like all this childhood trauma, and then we had a year, it was 2015, where he was hospitalized about every month, and like admitted to the hospital, not just like went to the ER, but like where they admitted him for something different every month. And one of those times was severe asthma, where he had to use his EpiPen three times in 2 days. And at first, like, he'd go to the ER and they'd be like, "You're not supposed to use an EpiPen for asthma." And he's like, "This is what it was prescribed for."
Oh my God.
And it got to the point, well, it turned out that he was having an allergic reaction to albuterol. And so, like,
Mm.
he's in the ER with these doctors pumping him full of albuterol, and he like still can't breathe, and the doctor's going, "You need to give him an EpiPen now." And the nurse is like, "No, I shouldn't do that. That doesn't make any sense." And so he has all of this additional PTSD from like almost dying in the hospital a bunch of times when they wouldn't listen to him. And so, like, healing from that specific, like, it felt like his childhood trauma, when it was, it felt like it was more difficult for him to recover from the stuff that was added on top. Anyways, I'm like going off on this tangent. I've seen how real this is. I've seen firsthand what a difference this thing you're doing right now can make in people's lives.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like you're telling that story, and I just had full body chills because it's something that's happening more often than we know. And it's everything that you were saying. It's like his body was just screaming, like, no, stop. Like, I'm trying to talk to you. I'm trying to communicate with you. You have things that you're holding on to, and you need to deal with them. And your body will just keep getting louder and louder and louder until you listen and you start healing.
And the pain meds make it impossible for your brain to recover from trauma. Like,
Mhm.
they make it impossible to think clearly and to get like especially those like addictive like opioids and things like that. Like, he was never himself. He was never thinking clearly. He was never in a mental state to be able to sit there and go, "Oh, I have trauma that's really like the root cause of all of this, and I need to work on healing that." Like, there was never a time when he was like, it took a lot. Eventually, obviously, that happened, but like, it took, when he was on all of those pain meds, he was not himself. They really warped his brain in so many ways, and it was really like such a difficult time. And so, like, when you go from that medical side of it, you have to be so careful, like, with all the
Yeah.
stuff on all the little band-aids that they throw at you that just aren't really fixing anything.
With the pain medicine too, that is something that I refuse to do. Like, I refuse to take the pain pills because they were giving me, I don't remember exactly, but they were giving me strong opioids. And
That word.
I was like, I am not going to take those. And I didn't even want to take Tylenol. I didn't want to take anything because if I numb the pain with medicine and it takes away the pain, then I'm going to keep taking it. And then I'm going to need more and more and more. And to me, it was, if I take one ibuprofen, the next step is I'm on the street because I'm doing heroin. Because like there was no in between. There was no like, oh, I can just casually take some pain medicine and be okay. It was a slippery slope that I knew was going to go. Like, I have addictive people in my family. I have relatives that we don't speak to because, I've heard all the terrible things that they've done because they were addicted to drugs and things like that. And not to say that I handled my pain well. And, I did drink a lot of wine because wine did help to numb the pain, and I could finally like not feel the pain. So yes, I was drinking and numbing the pain. But obviously that wasn't truly helping either.
Well, and that's such a great like perspective to have gone from it. I hate pain meds. Even Tylenol like messes up my head. Like, one Tylenol and I'm like dizzy and loopy. And so, yeah, if I have to, I will, but I try so hard not to take it. But my husband didn't have that mindset. And there's just these times that when you're in like that much pain, there's, you just look for any way out of it. And so, while I see clearly the dangers of these pain meds and numbing all that pain, I also try really hard to have a lot of compassion for somebody who's in so much pain that they are literally looking for any way out of it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
It's a really like difficult place to be in. And one of my favorite quote is from Frozen. People make bad choices when they're mad or scared. or stressed. And you just have to look at yourself and look at others from that lens of compassion of like, how much pain is this person in and how is it changing their behavior and their decision making skills?
Mhm.
Like it can just make it impossible to think clearly and to make good choices.
Yeah. Yeah. Like my husband, when we first met, he knew that I wasn't a morning person. And, I also was bartending too. So I was having late nights and things like that. But even when I wasn't working late nights and I was working more at a restaurant, in the mornings, my back hurt the most. And he knew like how grumpy and how much pain I was when I woke up. And so he would like hand me my coffee. He would like just let me do a little bit of stretching so I could get past the like excruciating pain and into like, okay, this is my life pain. And so that's how I was. And, I would tell my son, oh, we can't do that today. My back hurts too much. Like I would tell him these things all the time. And it was hard. And there was a point where I was like, okay, I've got to figure out something. I think he was about two and a half. And I thought, okay, maybe I'll go to yoga. And so I must be like 26 or 27. And I started going to yoga. I found a studio that had a daycare. And so I could bring him. It was a little bit pricey, but I was like, let's just try it. This is great. And so I went for about 3 months, 3 to 4 times a week, and my pain went away. And I said, oh, yes, I've found the answer. I just needed to stretch it more than I was stretching at home. And I was like, this is it. So I kept going to yoga for, I think it was a year total. And then I was halfway through my second pregnancy with my son. And all of a sudden, my son stopped liking the daycare. Like he would run out. He was 2.5. He would just run out. And
Oh no.
yeah, and me, who's still, and at this point, I don't know it, but at this point, I'm still very much in survival mode. I'm still kind of in that fight or flight. I have a lot of anxiety and things like that because I thought that was just who I was at that point. Um, but coming from a background of trauma, I was like, something happened in there, like he doesn't want to be in there because something happened to him. But really, it's probably that I was pregnant and we were telling him, there's going to be a new baby coming and blah, blah. So he probably just in his little 2-year-old brain thought that, maybe I was leaving him or like I was going to go with a baby or something. Like it was probably nothing probably happened. He just wanted to be with me. And so I stopped going because I was like, you're not going to stay in the classroom. You're old enough to open the door. I don't want to traumatize you by like forcing you and like forcing the employees to like keep you in here. So I stopped going. I had my son, and about 6 months after I stopped, I felt the first twinge in my back, and I said, "Oh God!" And within a month, it was December. Within a month, it was as bad as it had ever been, and this time it was almost worse, though, at least emotionally, because I had just had about 18 months pain free after having 7 years of pain from like
And you
21 to 26
and
or
you'd also
27.
just had a baby.
Yeah, he
Which
was he
means
was about 4 months. I don't know.
well,
I'm
and
doing
I was
it
gonna say
right now.
having a baby,
Yeah.
like you have all of these hormones that just like
Mhm.
flood your brain, and that
Yeah.
also makes it hard to like
Yeah.
release
And I
trauma.
had
And
like postpartum anxiety, and we had just moved into my father-in-law's house to prepare for our big move to a different state. And And so we're living with him. I just had my 30th birthday. I felt like I was going backwards, even though we were there for a good reason. It like was hard for me. I was like, I'm living with a parent again after living on my own. And so it was a whole
that's
lot.
so
And
hard to do.
yeah.
It's so hard to do.
And I was like, and I just turned 30. And like, what's going on? And it was just I had a lot going on emotionally. And so the pain came back. And after, being back for about 6 weeks, I'm like, I can't do this. Gotta go back to yoga. And so in February, I started going to yoga. I went a few times, and then it was March 2020, and the whole
Oh
world
no.
shut down. And so obviously, I had to stop going to yoga. And looking back, I feel like it was the universe saying, Ashlee, it's not yoga. Stop trying to make yoga the thing. It's not the thing. You need to heal a different way. And so that's when I started. Every morning I started a gratitude practice, and I was writing down 10 things that, I was calling into my life, or affirmations, goals I was working towards. And one of the things that I would write every morning was, I've been back pain free since 2020. And so that was in the summer of 2020. And a few months later, that's when I had heard about the emotional trauma being stored as pain. And then a few months after that is when I healed my pain and got the answers.
That's amazing. So I want to go back for a second to when you were in all this pain, any point along that long, I think you said 12 years. 12 years is a long time to be in a ton of pain. So my question for you is, how did you seek sunshine? How did you find like hope in your mind to keep going when it was like this never ending future of pain? Because when you're in it, you're like, this seems like it's never going to end. I don't see a way out. I've tried all of the things. Nothing is working. How do you keep going when you're in that place?
Yes. So I think it kind of stems from when I was 19 and I was in the abusive relationship, and I told myself, you know what, maybe if I smile, I'll feel happier. So when I was 19 and I was in this abusive relationship, and I was really sad, obviously, I was crying a lot, I was really depressed. And one day I said, well, what if I just start smiling more? And it was two parts. The one part was, maybe people will stop looking at me like I'm so pathetic because I'm so sad and weepy all the time. And the other one was like, and maybe it'll make me feel happy. And so I kind of just started smiling more all the time, just constantly smiling. And you're on camera with me, I'm smiling. Like, even if I'm talking about something uncomfortable, I'm smiling. It's just my face. It's a part of who I am now. And now I know that that's actually something that's called biofeedback. And when you do that, your brain thinks that you're happy. So if you smile, it makes you feel happy. And so that's what I started doing when I was 19. And I think that's been really helpful. And I just started having a more positive mindset. I always felt that everything was going to be okay. I felt that somehow I was being protected in a way, in sort of like a spiritual sense, even though I had like a weird Catholic upbringing that I no longer a part of. But I just always felt that everything was going to be okay. And when I was about 20, 21, I stopped watching the news too. This was back when you could just not watch the news and you didn't have the news bombarded on you.
Right. Everywhere.
Facebook had just been started. So it wasn't all over. I still am very weary with the news. I try to I don't like actively read it. My husband will tell me some things, and he even knows a lot of times, like if it has to do with children or just like really messed up stuff, he knows to like not tell me. Or I'll tell him, I need you to stop telling me, because I do get very, very much involved with it. And so that was a big thing, was not taking on all of the world's problems.
That's a great, I don't know, way to shift things that you can control in your life. Like, I'm going to choose to listen to positive things. I'm going to choose, the stories that come into my environment to the best of my ability. And I think that can make a huge difference in like the state of our minds. And when we're like, okay, I'm going to listen to things that are uplifting. I'm going to take in things that are good for me, that are not going to drag me down.
Yeah, yeah. And I've been, talking with lots of like experts in the field lately, with my own podcast and such. And we as humans, we're not meant to hear about everything that's happening in the world. We're not meant to take on all of the horrible things that are happening in the world. And
We
of
can't
course,
handle it.
the
Yeah.
media wants to tell the worst things that happen too. And so it seems like a lot, but we're not meant to carry all of that. Our brains aren't capable of handling all of that and all of those emotions. So it was a good thing that I started implementing a long time ago. And that's been really helpful, because there have been times that I was so worried that I was going to be in a wheelchair by the time I was 50. I was like, I'm 25 years old and I am in so much crippling pain. And it would be worse when I would throw my back out, because when I would throw my back out, that's when it was impossible for me to move. I would have back spasms. That was the only time that I took pain medicines, and they would give me muscle relaxers too, which I couldn't take with my when I had a kid, because it makes you super groggy and out of it, and I have to watch them. So it did get really, really depressing. And so I just did the best that I could. I took advantage of my good days. And, it's not like I wasn't as bad as your husband. It sounds like I was able to walk. I never had a cane, and like I was still working, at a busy restaurant and stuff. It was just a lot of physical pain that I just kind of like pushed through, and just um knew that I was going to find a solution somehow. I knew that I had to, and I just kind of kept the hope.
I love what you said, and I want to bring it back to that. I took advantage of the good days. So I feel like that has built into it, like letting yourself rest when you need rest, and letting yourself take it easy when it's not a good day. Because and I feel like that's, that can be applied to all of us, no matter what we're going through, no matter what level of pain that we're having with ourselves. Like we all have days when we're just more on, when we're just more on top of it. And we all have days when we're just like sick for whatever reason, or we're just not energetically there. And it's okay to take time to rest and take time to be still. In fact, it's really good for us.
Yeah.
And then the opposite of that is like, okay, I'm having a really good day. I'm really feeling like productive energetically, and like I'm going to take advantage of this, and then I'm going to be okay with myself and everything when it's not as good.
Yeah, yeah. And since, healing that pain, I've been so much more connected to my body. I listen to my body a lot more, and things have gotten so much easier. Like when I do a workout, I'm like, okay, what do I feel like doing today? Do I feel like doing a really jumpy, active workout? Because I work out at home and I have like beach body. And so, like, do I want to do that? Or do I feel like I need to do like a stretchy movement one or a bar class? And I listen to whatever my body needs in that moment. And there's been two times this year that I've gotten physically sick, because I was going too much, like with my business and all of these things. And I was like, I'll stop when I'm done. And it's like, I'm never gonna be done. Like there's
I
so
do
many
that all
more
the time.
things. Yeah. And like I was going really hard this summer, and I got sick, and I was the only one who got really sick. The kids got it like a little bit, but for like 15 days, I felt so out of it. I couldn't do anything. And it was just so bizarre. And all I could do was sleep. I was sleeping like 10 to 14 hours a night. It was so weird. It was the like strangest
Your
thing.
body needed rest.
Yeah, my body was like, no, 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 you need a rest. And it was right after I gotten Reiki attuned. And so I don't know if my body was like processing it or whatever, but it was crazy. I haven't been that sick in a really, really long time. And then just recently, like I got a cold, and it wasn't too bad, because immediately I was like, okay, I need to rest. And I knew before, I was like, I am doing too much. I really need to start resting, because I'm like preparing too much. I know I'm pushing myself too hard. And then I got sick, and I was like, I'm sorry. I knew you needed rest. And so it's hard for me to make sure that I honor my body's needs, because I always want to just keep going, keep going. I love staying busy. And I know that's also a part of my trauma, is that stay busy, stay active, stay occupied, right? And so I'm working on it. I'm still a human. I'm still a work in progress.
Oh, I so feel that. I'm a very, very go, 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 go A-type personality. Like, get it, just do things. And I
Mhm.
realized recently when I was like, working on myself and working on healing, that like I was kind of afraid to just like sit still, because I thought it meant like all these things about me. Like it meant that I wasn't doing my best. If I sat
Yeah.
still and wasn't actively doing not even just one thing, but I was never doing just one thing at a time. I was always doing like multitasking, lots of things at once, because if I wasn't, then how could I justify, like I have so many things to do in a day. I have so many responsibilities. And if I sit still, then clearly I'm not doing my best. And I have all these ways in which I'm failing, but it's okay for me to fail if I'm doing my absolute best, which meant to me pushing myself all the time.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've also been going through this journey of like learning to be still and learning to rest, and how valuable that is for, our minds and our bodies to
Yeah.
sit still and not be doing a bunch of things at the same time, and how essential it is to meditate and to, like, I've been loving your hypnosis things. I've actually listened to that one like 3 times now, and it's just
Yeah.
so important that we take time to be still and we
Yeah.
take time to rest. And it's interesting as we look at the world and we look at, we've been trained to go, 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 go all the time. And that what your value lies in what you can produce.
Hmm.
And it's not true. And it's
Yeah.
a rewiring that has to take place for us to realize that and to embrace it. So yeah, I was just learning, the value of sitting still and resting, and how our worth is not, even though we've been taught and it's been ingrained that our worth is in what we can produce, that's not true. We are all valuable, like, just inherently, and it's a hard thing to embrace, like your
Yeah.
own personal value. So we will start like the wrap up process. I'm hoping you'll tell me about your business now and your podcast and all the cool things that you're doing.
Yeah. So after I started sharing my story, I reconnected with a friend who was like one of my best friends growing up's neighbor, and she's been doing all of these amazing things. She was a fitness coach, and then she became a life coach, and she created her own coaching certification program. And so I enrolled in the beta round, and I just graduated over the summer. So I'm a certified coach. I'm certified in modalities like Reiki and emotional freedom technique, clinical hypnotherapy, and a few others. And
Awesome.
yeah, and it was really fun to learn. And I also did like emotional intelligence, which was really great. And I was able to apply it to my life, like with my husband and with my kids, and able to learn more about my emotions and how to regulate them and all these great things. And obviously, I've been researching and reading and learning all I can about how trauma affects our brains and our bodies, and all of the plethora of ways that we can heal, because I thought all I could do to heal was go to talk therapy and take medicine. I didn't know that there was anything available besides that. And I had some bad experiences uh, with a psychiatrist and overprescribing some medications that, and when I was 19, that I never wanted to go see any sort of shrink. And so yeah, so I've just been learning all that there is available, and I am launching my podcast. It comes out in January 4th, I believe, or the 3rd. I've been like launching for 3 months and just batch recorded a
Yay! I'm
bunch of
so
interviews.
excited for it to come
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. And so that's called Thriving After Abuse. And the whole intention of the podcast is inspiration, tools, and modalities for survivors of abuse, that healing is 1,000,000% possible, and it's possible to thrive after. And so, super excited for that to come out. I'm also launching a little mini membership with it. It's going to be really, really affordable for anyone to get in. It's just going to be $11 a month. And every month I'm going to drop in some content in there. It's going to be all about how to heal, how to rewire your brain, how to build your self-worth after abuse, and different tools and modalities I'll be teaching in there. And then, of course, I'm going to over deliver, and I'll probably have like Q&A sessions. I'm definitely going to offer discounts on hypnotherapy sessions and all of these other modalities that I teach, and I'm super, super excited for that launch.
That's amazing. I'm so excited
Yeah.
for all this to come out. And I know that you've been like kind of beta testing it now, and I've gotten to be part of it, and it's been so cool.
Yeah, and I've been creating some journals and things like that that kind of help you to build these tools as a habit, because healing is not a destination. It's not someplace that you're going to get. It's a lifelong journey. And so these tools are just like going to the gym or drinking your daily water, right? It's something that you should just, I don't want to say should, I don't want to should on people. It's something that if you want to feel the effects of it, it's something that needs to be kept up. It needs to be done. You need to weed the garden, right? And so that's why I'm making these journals with like these 30 days of guided journal prompts and things like that, because it's best to build it into your routine and just make it a part of your life. And I know that there's, it's taboo to talk about being abused and all of these things. No one wants to talk about it, and no one wants to talk about the healing. They just want you to be done. Like, okay, it's been 10 years. Are you over it yet? No, I still have chronic back pain, right? And so no one's allowed to talk about it. We're not allowed to talk about the healing, and I want to help to eliminate the shame around it. There's no shame in healing. You don't shame
Yeah.
people for going to the gym, or like, oh, you're really going to drink all that water today? Wow, like you need water to survive. That's crazy, and it's the same with healing. Like, we should not be shaming anyone because they're still
Yeah.
healing. We should be
Let's
applauding them and have a community of people who are healing. So
let's
that's
change
another
that
part of the membership.
conversation.
Yeah, is that I want a
Yeah.
community, because you feel alone already when you're being abused. You get isolated. And now I want a community of women who are healing, who are doing the work, who have someone to lean on to be like, this is hard, this is icky, this is scary. Like, okay, how can we support you? How can we help you? This is what worked for me. Maybe this would work for you.
Absolutely. Yes. And it's such an important part of like my podcast and your podcast of like, let's change this conversation. Let's talk about these difficult topics that have been taboo for so long. Let's erase the taboo part. Let's make it something that we can, because that's one of the reasons why so many people who have been abused have not been able to heal, because when you keep it all wrapped up and hidden like that, you can't heal it until you start
Yeah,
recognizing it and bringing it out of the shadows. That's where
exactly.
healing lives, is out. Like, and that doesn't mean it has to be public. It just means it has to be like something that you think
It has to be
about, and
something
that you,
that's done. Yeah.
right, you have to think about it and research it and work on it actively. Like, that's how you become better. That's how you heal. That's how you free yourself from that pain.
Yeah.
And so I love that, like, you're bringing this to the forefront of the conversation, is like,
Yeah.
let's be more open. And it helps, I'm sure that it helps all these women who have dealt with these things to have a place to go to talk about it. So that's beautiful that you're going to create that. I'm so excited for all the
Yeah.
things that you're
Me
going to
too.
do. You have a lot of amazing things that are coming out in the world.
Yeah, me too.
That's awesome. So is there anything that you'd like to leave us with? Any final like piece of advice or thought or piece of sunshine?
Yes. Okay. This is something that I always like to share. Trauma, it's not your fault. It's not okay what happened to you, but right now, your healing is your responsibility. Nobody else can do it for you. Time will not heal your wounds. It's something that you have to actively work on, but it is possible. It is 100% possible. If you put in the work, you can completely heal any sort of trauma that you've gone through.
Yay, I love that. And I love how you were talking about making a habit, making it a part of your everyday, because we tend to think we're like, okay, we got to get our fitness in, we got to get our water in, we got to brush our teeth every day. We get dressed and we take care of our bodies, but we don't prioritize that healing and the mindset work. And it's just as important that we add
Yeah.
that into our daily lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And a good way to, add it in is to, like, it's called habit stacking. So you add it to something you already do. So like maybe while you're drinking your coffee, instead of, scrolling on your phone, maybe when you're drinking your coffee, you're doing your gratitude practice and you're writing the three things that you did that you're proud of, the accomplishments that you had, or whatever it is that's in your practice that you need to work on. And then add it to that habit of you're drinking your coffee, and then it makes it easier for your brain to kind of accept this as routine. Like, oh, when we drink coffee, we do our journaling.
I love that. I have actually been talking about that forever. but I didn't know what it was called. I did not know it was called habit stacking. I've called it like
Yeah. I forget if I heard
pairing.
it from Rachel Hollis or like Brendan Burchard or something. I heard it a couple years ago.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
so what I do is every morning without fail I get up and I do my hair and my makeup. Like that's been like my whole life. It's my me time. It's my favorite thing to do, and no matter what else is going on, I always get up and I
Nice.
get ready for the day, and it's like my priority, and I swear that's what's gotten me through like so much stuff, and like making sure that I have my time.
Yeah.
But then pairing that with like listening to my scriptures, listening to something uplifting, listening to whatever it is at the moment, like that's gonna raise my vibe for the day, that's gonna help me feel positive and feel, you know, the spirit more intuition, more hope in my day. And so that's what I'm always like advising people. I'm like, if you're having a hard time like getting that in, pair it to something that you're already doing. What a beautiful concept to like make it
Yeah.
easier to add habits into our lives.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for coming on to my podcast today. I really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me and my little one.
Yeah, no problem. Absolutely. So tell us, let's see, your podcast is going to be called
Thriving After Abuse.
Thriving After Abuse. I did know
Yes,
that.
just very clear, just right on the nose. I've done so many like cute names and like, oh, they rhyme names. And this one I'm like, no, I just want people to know exactly what it is, what they're coming and what they're getting.
Awesome. And then where can
Yes.
people follow you now if they want
Yes.
to come
Yeah. So
follow
I'm
you?
most active on Instagram. So it's my name at Ashlee, ASHLEE underscore Hoelck, HOELCK. And then I'll have, all my links, how you can work with me, all sorts of stuff on there.
Awesome. And we'll put all that in the show notes too to make it really easy for people to come find you because you are amazing and it is really uplifting to watch you and everything that you're sharing and doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, and I hope you have a super amazing day.
Thank you. Bye. Goodbye,
Bye.
everyone.
Oh my goodness, I just loved having Ashlee here. What a gift it was to hear her story and hear about all the amazing things that she's doing in her life. And she's helping so many people because of all the pain she's been in. She's actually turning that around and doing so much good with it, which just leaves me in awe of her. So here are my favorite takeaways. Number 1, your body will just keep getting louder and louder and louder until you listen and start healing. Number 2, we are not meant to take on all the horrible things happening in the world. Number 3, take advantage of the good days. Number 4, since I healed that pain, I've been so much more connected to my body. Number 5, I listen to whatever my body needs in that moment. Number 6, our worth is not in what we can produce. Number 7, healing is not a destination, it's a journey. And lastly, number 8, healing is your responsibility, but it is possible. You can find more from Ashlee on Instagram at Ashlee_Hoelck, which is spelled out for you in the show notes. And you can also visit my website to find out more from me. I've got all my music information there, all of my coaching information there, and everything is coming together there. I was finally able to update my website and get it all together. So it's everything's there. Go check it out. Thank you so much again for joining me on this episode of Seeking Sunshine. It really means the world to me when you come and listen, and I hope that you have found as much joy and hope in this episode as I have. That's truly my goal here, is to help you feel uplifted. So I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to leave you with a song. Dear apathy, are you in love with me? Without you, I would cry. it's just too hard to feel your feelings. So I stopped crying and went back to apathy. Dear apathy, I need you here with me. You calm the tears I cry. I go up and I go down with my emotions. You keep me on solid ground with these emotions. I shut them down and went back to apathy. Dear apathy, they say you're wrong for me, but I just don't care. I'm afraid that it's far worse not to have you. I can't handle myself when I'm without you. I'm tired of fighting, tired of feeling. It's overwhelming, so I went back to apathy. Dear apathy, are you